Analysis. Let's review that one more time, shall we? So with audience analysis, you are being asked to consider the individuals who will be reading or viewing a subject to which you are interested in writing. This is a practice exercise, and the purpose of it is to assist you in understanding what is involved in audience analysis and ensuring that the subject that you want to write about is directed to the particular audience and it meets the particular purpose to which you are trying to convey. So let's just talk about how all of this works together. So you will select a subject, something that you may be interested in writing about. An example that was given previously is taking a look at the article that was written by Naomi Osaka, in which she was talking about mental wellness. Well, let's say that I want to write a subject or an article that talks about how her realization of mental wellness is really important to many individuals. I have my subject that I want to write about. It's a fairly narrow subject. I want to focus on specifically how the realization from many well-known athletes about their mental wellness is extremely important for us to understand. That's the message that I want to convey. That is my thesis statement or the idea that I want to convey. My audience is going to vary quite a bit, right? I need to determine who will be the primary readers for my piece. Yes, it may be the instructor, but I'm really trying to direct it to individuals maybe who either understand and they need confirmation, they need understanding, they need verification and validation that mental wellness is important. Or I may be directing my piece to individuals who are not as familiar with the subject. This is where audience analysis comes into play. You need to know to whom you're writing. Not everything you write will be for the professor. So let's think about the audience. First of all, you probably need to think about the demographics. And so the audience profile sheet that you have goes over some of that. So really begin to stop and think about, so who exactly am I directing my piece to? If I'm directing my piece about the importance of mental wellness for young athletes and how I think that is important that we continue to examine the subject, I may write it to the fans of some of these well-known sports athletes. For example, again, I may take the fans of the Japanese tennis player Naomi Osaka. Who are these individuals? They may be young females. They may be minority females. They may be of a particular age group, anywhere possibly between the age of 13 all the way up into the age of 22 or 24. They may also aspire to be like Naomi Osaka, either in the sense that they want to be great athletes, whether that is in tennis or that is in gymnastics or whether that is in softball, whatever the sport may be, they want to achieve the highest level possible. Or they may be interested in her business, her brand, her modeling, how she is progressing in that. Or they may be very interested in her social justice initiatives. So they may have particular reasons as to why they are interested in her. And that will be important to me because that is going to help me possibly convey my subject of, again, why the discussion of mental wellness is so important at this particular time. If I'm directing my piece to a completely different audience, which may be the parents, right? Then what do we know demographically about parents? They're generally older. Now, I won't say extremely older because some parents can be between the ages of 30 all the way up to 50, right? They aspire to help their child grow into a responsible adult. They are concerned with the development of that child from beginning all the way to when they become adulthood, and even after they become an adult. Many of the parents may be working, for example, so they are balancing work with family life. And so, how do they ensure that all of the values that they want to instill within that child is being conveyed and sought through? These parents may be the ones who take off time from work so that they can go and see the child play if they're playing a particular sport or if they are performing in a theater production, etc. So these parents are extremely concerned. Again, that's some of the demographic information that you'll need to know about these. But again, you have to stop and really consider. So the audience profile sheet that you have, it is extremely important that you complete that for the two groups of audiences which you may write your subject. Same subject, two different groups of audience members. You also need to do what is sometimes called an attitudinal analysis. So what are the attitudes of these readers, right, or of your audience? So what are their attitudes toward the subject? What are their beliefs? What are their actually feelings toward this subject? So for the young group, for example, those fans of Naomi Osaka, since I'm talking about mental wellness in young athletes and how we need to continue to have that conversation, well, what is their attitude toward this particular subject? Do they agree? Do they disagree? What do they actually already know about the subject? Will I need to provide them with some background information because they may not be as knowledgeable about it as possible? That's something that I need to possibly consider. And then I also need to consider, again, what are their beliefs toward this subject? Are they for the idea that we need to stop and allow these professional athletes to have some mental wellness checks and to take a break if they need to? If I'm directing it to parents, they may have a little bit different stance, right? They may have an attitude of, we have tried our best, right, as parents to instill certain values, beliefs, and ways to deal with stress within our children. Therefore, I'm going to direct my piece a little bit differently for that particular group, correct? So I need to keep all of that in mind. And then finally, I need to consider whether their attitude is one of anger, one of frustration, one of happiness and gleefulness, or is it one of sadness and misunderstanding? I also need to consider what is their attitude toward the speaker or the writer. So what do they know about me as the writer? What do I need to do to establish my credibility? So if I have experience in being an athlete, do I need to provide some narration within that? Do I need to provide that information at the very beginning of my essay? Or do I need to include that within a particular body section of the piece where I am going to talk about the stressors that many athletes have? Notice how I'm moving from where I'm going to begin to where I'm going to go to the middle section within the body portion of the piece. So establishing your credibility as the author is extremely important. When we think about writing, we also need to think about the fact that we need to connect the ideas and the concepts with our audience's awareness of the subject, with their expectations of how the information will be presented. Are they expecting it to be presented in an essay format, in some type of visual format, which can be a short video as what we have here, a PowerPoint presentation, etc. Or it can also be an audio file, right? So what are their expectations? That followed by what is their actual knowledge? So how do I even get some of this information? Oftentimes the best way to do that is to do some peer review. Talk with some of your classmates. Talk with some of your workplace colleagues about the subject that you are thinking about writing about. And remember, you're not going to write an essay. It's just, I'm thinking about this subject. What do you know about it? And that will help you determine, again, our purpose is to practice doing audience analysis, not writing an essay, but practice the audience analysis and can make thinking about each of these considerations. So again, when we're writing, we have to consider how are we going to connect our ideas, that main idea, to the concepts that our audience have, our targeted audience. What's their awareness of the subject? What are their expectations? What is their prior knowledge? And how can we mesh all of that and move that toward our main point? So we have to consider things such as how would you structure the piece to provide enough background information as well as introduce the key points to your audience. Will you help your readers transition from one major point to another point by using key transitional words? Will you use narration to envelop and involve your reader and to elicit the type of response that you want? You want them to get angry. You want them to be frustrated. You want them to be happy and gleeful about the subject. And then how will you establish your credibility so that the author will believe your information, what you are presenting? So in 250 to 300 words, this is what you are conveying in your audience analysis. You are examining what you have gathered from that audience profile sheet. What do you know about the demographics of your audience? Again, their age, their gender, their language, their geographic location, their personal characteristics, their education. Then you're also, remember, doing a attitudinal analysis, right? So what is their attitude toward the subject? What do they already know about the subject? Will you need to provide any background information? What is their attitude towards you? What will be their expectations about you even conveying the subject? Will you offer information that they already know? Or will you provide some additional information? Will you validate information that they already know? And then again, what is their expectations toward the document and how it will be presented? So keep all of this in the back of your mind as you outline your audience analysis.